Trucker Dump, episode 138. In today's episode, I'm starting a new segment where I talk to truckers who have a specialty. Today's job will be a rental equipment hauler. But before that interview, we've got lots of news to cover, including more recalls, lots of news legislation, ELD privacy issues, and some stupid things truckers do, which means I'm pissed off through about half the news segment. But we do lighten the mood every now and then with an odd quarantine, 7 of the best companies to work for, according to Forbes, a couple of cool new products, and a chance to win a free trip to Nashville. How cool is that? And you know, I didn't think we'd have a Trucker Grub segment, but an old acquaintance stops in to talk about Nancy's Pizza in Litchfield, Illinois. You're never going to guess who this is. In the listener feedback section, we'll discuss Ambien, refresher courses, the importance of asking questions, and I'll have my sanity questioned. About time. This episode of Trucker Dump is sponsored by Volvo Trucks. Learn more at volvotrucks.us.
Welcome to Trucker Dump, where you'll get one driver's insights and sometimes humorous views of truck driving and the trucking industry, and pretty much anything else he feels like dumping on you. This podcast is brought to you by abouttruckdriving.com. Resources to help you understand the world of truck driving through the use of stories and a pathetic attempt at humor.
Hey there, Trucker Dumpers. Long time, no talk. Surprise, surprise, right? Yeah. Nobody who listens to this show is surprised. Although, to be honest with you, I am a bit surprised. I gotta tell you, man, this new company is running my fool head off. I had 3,700 miles a couple of weeks ago, 2,800 miles. I just finished a 3,600 mile week. They are just killing me, but I'm accepting the extra work on the weekend. It's a busy time of the season, so I'm trying to rake it in. But every time I think I'm going to have time to finish the podcast, well, I don't get a chance. So anyway, unsurprised, right? Hey, for those that new, I am Todd McCann. I'll be your host today. Well, and every day, for a matter of fact. I've been a trucker for 22 years, and I'm the author of 2 trucking ebooks, Trucking Life and How to Find a Great Truck Driving Job. You can learn more at abouttruckdriving.com. What else could I tell you about myself? Well, why would I talk about myself when I can get an iTunes review to do it? This one comes from Sidru. He, or she, says, "He seems like a nice enough person, strangely too nice, almost creepy. He works really hard at being informative. He laughs or chuckles at everything he says. Everything. I just can't continue to listen." Well, Sir Drew, I just laughed at what you said because, hey, it's funny. You know, like I've said before, not everybody likes this show. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people like it. Some people don't. I got a 2-star here. That's okay. I would love for Sid Drew to listen, but if they don't want to, that's their prerogative. So anyway, wonder if this sounds any different to you. I'm coming to you first time from my house. It's a lovely morning, 6 a.m., and just getting ready to go to bed since I'm working a night shift now. Hammy, the cat, is looking out the window, looking to see if there's any rabbits out there that deserve to die. Thankfully, he can't get to them. And there I go, laughing at my own jokes again. Hey, but if you don't like that, you might as well just hit pause now and delete the podcast, because that's going to happen a lot. What can I say? I amuse myself. So hey, an update on the new job. It is going very well. I am still having a little trouble getting used to all the night shift work. It's nothing but night work, but I am sleeping better during the day, so that's a good thing. So hopefully I won't kill any of you out on the road. And what else have I been up to recently? Well, a couple cool things, actually. I got the opportunity to be a co-host on the trucking podcast with Buck Ballard and Don the Beer Guy. Don could not make it one time, and Buck's a friend of mine, called me up, and we had a good chat over there. I'll put a link in the show notes to that one. That was the May 29th episode of the Trucking Podcast if you're already subscribed to that, so check that out. I also mentioned the show notes. I might as well go ahead and explain to you. I say show notes about 8 billion times in each episode. You can find those show notes at abouttruckdriving.com. Just search for episode 138. Or your podcast player might support it. Just search around in there and you'll find them. You get links to all the stuff we talk about here, some pictures if your podcast app will support it, and that kind of thing. Another opportunity I got recently was to be interviewed by Nikki over at the Truck Boss Show. There'll be links to both of these interviews, and there might be a third one coming down the road, but there's 2 published right now. You can check out the links in the show notes, or you can go to YouTube and just search for Truck Boss Show, and you'll find him somewhere down there in the list. It's a pretty cool show. It's fairly new. I like it. You guys ought to check it out. Subscribe to him over there. And I did one on starting a podcast, how to start a podcast, and another one just kind of talking about the Trucker Dump podcast and why I do this and all that kind of thing. Really fun interview with Nikki over there. So go check that out. And hey, they are offering some free swag. There's like a hat, there's a shirt, there's some really cool stuff in there. So if you're interested in some free gear, it's got a really cool logo. It's got a really cool design, really, really awesome looking stuff. I think any trucker would enjoy wearing it. So if you are interested in that, just be the first person to email me at truckerdump@gmail.com, and we'll get that sent right out to you pretty quick. That's pretty cool of them to offer that gear. So kudos to Truck Boss, and thanks to them for having me on their show. I do have to warn you, though, when you look at the clips for these videos, you know, the intro clip that just shows, you know, like mine and Nikki's face on it. I don't know why, but in both interviews, I look like a complete idiot. Maybe I always look like an idiot. I don't know. But I had some really goofy looks on my face, so you'll get a kick out of that. I'll try to remember to put a link in the show notes to that too, to those photos, so you might not even have to go anywhere to see them. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, hey, regarding the podcast, I wanted to mention a couple of people. Andrew specifically was the first one to call it out. Andrew's over on the Facebook page. That's search for Trucker Dump over there at Trucker Dump Podcast. Actually, don't search for Trucker Dump. That will get you nowhere good on Facebook. Search for Trucker Dump Podcast. But Andrew pointed out that the podcast feed was messed up. He was only showing like some older episodes, everything from like July of 2018 back, and nothing new was showing up. And he was right. A couple other people reached out to me also and told me about the same problem. And it was a technical issue, and I got it fixed, so no big deal. All those episodes should be back up. If you had that problem, just refresh in your podcast app and everything should pop up like it's supposed to be. And speaking of websites, guess what? I published the new website. Well, you know, I have to say, I'm happy with the new design. It's a little more modern looking. It does still have some bugs. Just so you know, when you go over there, you're going to see some bugs. The logo's not quite worked out yet. It's kind of funky still, but you know, I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to these things, and I know myself, and if I wait until it's perfect, it's going to be like 5 years from now before I ever launch the new podcast or the new website. So I went ahead and did it. I'll be fixing those little problems over time. Anyway, go check that out at abouttruckdriving.com. Tell me what you think about the new design. I think it looks really good on mobile, by the way. So check that out. And enough of that. Let's get on with the news, shall we? Because, man, you know, like I've said before, the biggest problem with putting out a podcast a month is that, man, there are a lot of news stories that build up. I had to cut a lot of them, and there are still a crap load of them. So let's just get to them. First up, if you haven't heard, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, or CVSA, is holding their annual brake safety check September 15th through 22nd. They're going to focus this year on brake hoses and tubing. So check all that out on your truck and make sure everything looks up to par. They're going to be looking for leaks, damaged hoses, bad clamps and things like that. Just loose stuff. Just check all that out. You don't want to be busted, because last year they did more than 35,000 inspections. They placed nearly 5,000 vehicles out of service. So don't be one of those people. Link in the show notes for more information on that. All right, next up we got the recalls, of course. Let's get these puppies out of the way pretty quick and get on with it. First, both Kenworth and Peterbilt have some electrical issues, so I'm just going to put a link in the show notes to this article so you can go check it out and see if yours is one of the affected models. It looks like it's going to be 2018 to 2020 Kenworth T680s and T880s. And for the Peterbilts, it looks like 2017 to 2020 Peterbilt 520 vocational trucks. So check those out. Those are both, like I said, electrical issues. Just check out the link in the show notes to find out more about that. And there's another issue with both Kenworth and Peterbilt trucks. More than 4,000 of them are being recalled for insufficient adhesive on the mirrors. So you might want to check that out. There is a link in the show notes for this too. It looks like it's going to be model years 2020, Peterbilt 520, 579, Kenworth T680s, 880s, and W990s. So check out the link. There's a recall number on there and the phone numbers you can call and all that stuff to see if yours is one of these that's affected. And lastly, Daimler Trucks has 741 trucks that need to come back. Apparently, there is a potential to have insufficient service brake air reservoir capacity, which affects your brakes and how good they work. So obviously, that's kind of important. And there is a big list of Freightliners, Western Stars, even some old Sterlings. So better check that out if you've got, if you've got any of those models, you need to go check this out, get that brake issue fixed. By the way, all this recall stuff came from overdriveonline.com, link in the show notes. Next up, a report from Truckers Report. Love the title of this one. CDL mills and bad trainers will love this FMCSA rule. Okay. Well, here's basically what they're planning. In the past, I guess if you have an independent truck driving school, what would happen is they would bring out a third party to test the drivers, which makes sense. You know, you don't want the instructors being the ones who are actually giving the test because it just makes them look great if they pass. So, right? I mean, but guess what? They want to change this rule to where those instructors can actually be the ones who test it. They say it'll be more efficient. Yeah, it probably will be. And it'll probably be less safe too. Boy, talk about fraud just waiting to happen. Anyway, link in the show notes to this stupidity. And in more stupidity, have you seen that they're trying to get trucks all speed limited at 65 mile an hour again? Oh, good Lord. This bill is sponsored by Johnny Isaacson of Georgia and Chris Coons of Delaware, both on opposite sides of the political spectrum. How do you like that? We finally get bipartisan stuff, and it's for speed limiting trucks when you know it. You know, here's the thing. All of us truckers know that speed limited trucks is just going to be a pain in the butt for everyone. Now, this apparently won't be for every truck on the road. Apparently, it will be for all new trucks that are built and all trucks that already have speed limiting devices in them. They were going to require them be set at 65 mile an hour if this goes through. But apparently, if your truck is old enough that it doesn't have a speed limiter or it's never had a speed limiter in it, you won't have to go back in and retrofit it. So, hey, how's that for the environment? They're always trying to get truckers to upgrade so they can have better, more economical, more environmentally friendly trucks. And then they're going to now just basically force truckers to hang on to their old trucks so they don't have to get these speed limiters attached. Man, what a crock of crap. Of course, all the big highway safety advocates are behind this, you know, Road Safe America, advocates for highway and auto safety, Parents Against Tired Truckers, all of those. They even have a quote in here from Steve Owings, who is the president and co-founder of Road Safe America. Apparently, his son, Colin, was killed by a big truck. And, you know, this is sad. I get it. Okay. It's sad that he lost his son, but, you know, he's like, if I had known that speed limiters were available, we could have had all trucks limited at 65 mile an hour. And it's like, I'm just sitting here thinking, and as sad as it is, if a truck hits you, doesn't really matter if it's going 65 or 70. There's a good chance somebody's going to die in that. I don't get it. I mean, unless the trucker is going 85 or 90 mile an hour, but let's be honest, how often do trucks really do that? If a truck's going 85 or 90 mile an hour, they're usually in Utah or West Texas where it's, you know, they're only slightly speeding out there. But anyway, this is just more stupidity. It just bugs the crap out of me. I would like to call out Senator Isaacson and Coons and just have them ride with a truck driver for just one day in heavy traffic and just see how they like that 65 mile an hour speed limit and see how it causes traffic jams and stuff like that. Let's see how they think about that. I just love it how so many of the people that are making rules for truck drivers have never stepped foot in a truck. Although I can't honestly say that about Senator Isaacson and Coons, but I'd be willing to make a good bet on that. I'm pretty cheap, and I'd make a pretty good wager that they've never stepped foot in a truck. But hey, anything for highway safety. It's for the children, right? Ugh. Anyway, check out the link to the article about that on truckinginfo.com if you're interested in more about that story. Hey, next up, let's have a little bit of good news, right? You remember last tax season I was complaining because they took away the tax deductions for truck drivers, but only to company drivers, not to owner-operators. You know, the per diem thing where we could deduct like meal expenses and stuff out on the road. Well, I didn't quite understand that at the time because owner operators and company drivers, we both have to eat, you know, our companies aren't reimbursing us for that. And I get their gist, but it just didn't work. Well, apparently they're trying to fix this. So that's a good thing. They're saying that, if this new bill goes through, they're saying that any truck driver, company driver can claim the deduction if and only if the company that they work for doesn't allow per diem. So I don't know if that means if they let you choose, you know, some companies will let you choose. Do you want per diem pay or do you want regular pay? And maybe that will depend. I'm guessing that's how it would work. If you choose it to accept the per diem pay, you won't be able to deduct those expenses from your taxes. And if you don't, you would. Did I say that right? I don't know. I'm not going back and fixing it. You guys get the gist of what I'm saying. But anyway, I'm not sure that I would do this anyway, because quite honestly, like I mentioned back in my tax time in February, whenever I got my tax return, my return was actually more. I think I paid less taxes throughout the year due to the new rule and not being able to claim the deduction because actually the standard deduction was higher. They raised that quite a bit, almost double, over double, I think, for married couples. So, but I think it's good. Either way, it's a choice. You know, you can figure it out both ways, figure out which way is best for your tax situation. So that's cool. Options are always great. And since I bashed the last two senators, I'll go ahead and name these two guys. They're both Democrats from Pennsylvania, Bob Casey and Connor Lamb. So they're introducing this one coming up. Keep you posted on that and how it's going. And if it passes, who knows? Since it's just going in, it might pass by about the year 2050. You know the way these things work. Anyway, link in the show notes. Hey, I found this bit of good news. New Montana law will raise truck speed limits. Montana Governor Steve Bullock is going to sign a law this month that will raise the speed limit on trucks on interstates from 65 to 70. And it'll also raise the speed limit for trucks on other highways in the state from 60 to 65. Well, that's good news. But of course, they still have split speed limits like so many states. They can still go 80 miles an hour on rural interstates and 70 miles an hour on two-lane highways during the day and 65 at night. So split speed limits all over the place. But you know what? Not that this even matters, because if this new law with the 65 mile an hour speed limiters go through, most of us are going to be stuck going 65, even though they've raised the speed limit up to 70. So they're going to change all their signs for nothing if this other law goes through. Politicians. All right, I found this next one on overdriveonline.com. Hey, what's your opinion on automated trucks? Well, the DOT is seeking information on what you think about it. They want your input from all public cars and truck drivers. They want to know how trucks should be regulated when it comes to automated systems. So if this is your bag, they're going to be accepting things. They're going to be accepting comments for 60 days. They have not started that yet. So just keep an eye on this article. There will be a link to the article here, and there will be a link to the commenting period. So you can keep checking back if you really got some strong opinions about that. Anyway, short little story there, but might be vital for all of us truckers to get over there and talk about this and how we feel about it and what we expect the DOT to do about changing the rules regarding automated trucks being on the road. So anyway, check that out. Link in the show notes. All right, next up we got more news from the FMCSA on the potential hours of service changes. Guess what? They're now expected to be July 31st. Well, at least they finally set a date. But they've said this about 8 million times during the course of this whole setup. They're going to fast track it. They're going to get it through. They're focusing on flexibility. Great. Well, crap or get off the pot, shall we? I'm getting tired of reporting on this story. Fleetowner.com. Check it out. All right, this next story perturbs me too, but for a different reason. Okay, apparently the Transportation Department funding bill is coming up again, and, this is what's going to set our new hours of service rules and things like that. And here's the thing I hate about this. They've stuck a little clause in this transportation bill saying that they want to keep the 30-minute break. So basically, they're kind of like holding it hostage, saying, hey, listen, we're not going to pass these other regulations unless you keep the 30-minute break intact. I don't know why they are so set on this stupid 30-minute break. Every driver hates it. The only rule we hate more is the 14. And thankfully, they're going to be looking at that one too. But the 30-minute break is totally stupid. Everybody knows it is. I can't recall one time I've taken a 30-minute break that I've actually been more energized when I got back to driving again. It just puts me to sleep. It just makes me want to take a long nap. And most of the time we can't do that. Why? Because the 14-hour rule. Oh, gee whiz. So anyway, I just hate this about our government. The way they pass laws and stuff like that. This is how so much of this crap gets passed. They'll put some big bill in and then they'll say, and then some, person from Kentucky or whatever will put in a little rider on it that says, and if this bill passes through, I get, $4 bajillion for a local road that drives to my house so I can repave it. It's like, I hate this stuff, I mean, I understand there are a lot of things in a transportation funding bill. I understand that, but it just seems like the big issues, they could just take it for its merit and what it is and vote on that particular issue, even if it means 15 votes within that bill, and the things that don't pass and don't stay in the bill, and the things that do pass stay in the bill. Doesn't that make sense, rather than just like lumping it all into one big thing and say, this is the way it is. It's all or nothing. I don't understand that. It's like, what are we going to do? Overwork our politicians if they have to stick around and vote on things? Really? Overwork them. Wow. Okay, I'm frustrated now, so let's move on. Link in the show notes to that stupid article. All right, this next story is old news. I realize that, but like I said, when you have a podcast that only comes out once a month, what do you expect? So I'm finally getting around to talking about this crash in Colorado where the guy came down the mountain and smashed into a bunch of cars, lost control, and killed 4 people in a fiery mess. Well, he's up for all kinds of charges and stuff like that, but I don't really want to report on that. I'm sure you all have heard that story a million times, but I would like to point out this article over on overdriveonline.com. It was by Clifford Peterson, and he is a truck driver and a good writer. I've read his stuff before, and he always has really good insights on things like this. Just lots of things in the industry, and he puts his own spin on it and brings up some important things. And this one, he's talking about who's to blame. Ultimately it is the driver's responsibility. He is the captain of a ship, as he puts it. But, there were also some other people at fault here too. Like the company had many equipment violations reported and they were never fixed. There was a issue of training. Was he trained properly? Because I guess he couldn't speak much English. And, hey, there's an issue there because you're supposed to be able to speak, write, and read English if you're going to become a truck driver. And if they can't do that well, then how are you supposed to train them properly? So there's an issue when it comes to that too. Anyway, this is just kind of a neat article, very insightful about, how all these things affect 5 lives, not just the 4 that were killed, because this guy is going to go away a long time in prison because the rules were not upheld. People weren't enforcing the current rules that we have on the books, and, trying to get trucks fixed and stuff like that. So often truckers are reporting issues, with their trucks, and their companies just don't do anything about it because they don't want to. And, again, that falls on the truck driver. So let me just say, most of us older truck drivers know that, you can lay down the law on your company if you work for a company and just say, I'm not driving this thing. You got a couple of choices. You can fix it or you can fire me, and just you lay down the line like that. 9 times out of 10, they're going to fix it because they can't really afford to lose a good driver. But ultimately, like Clifford says in here, it is your responsibility. And this guy is going to jail. It's not going to be the company that he drove for or the company that gave him his CDL. It's this driver. Anyway, sad story. Check that link out in the show notes for this really good article. And thanks to Clifford Peterson for writing it. Great stuff. All right, this next story. Well, I guess I've been pissed off through about half this episode, and this one's not going to help any. I tell you, this just angers me. I found this one on truckersreport.com. Actually, that's thetruckersreport.com. Man, I always get that wrong. Just click on the link in the show notes and you'll go right to it. Anyway, this is a story of 4 truckers, yes, count them 4, who were involved in a 90-mile road rage incident. Yes, you heard that right. 90 miles. Apparently what happened is an RV, it was a $750,000 motorhome, was being transported by a Horizon Transport driver. I'm just going to leave the driver's names out of all this and just go with it. Anyway, I guess something had happened and the RV driver pulled in front of a Smoot Brothers truck and slammed on the brakes. Don't know what happened before that. Nothing really talks about that in the article. Apparently he was pissed off about something, but no matter being pissed off, you don't pull in front of a semi or anybody for that matter and slam on your brakes. Not cool. So anyway, again, over the course of the next 90 miles, there were 4 Smoot Brothers drivers and this Horizon driver. They were speeding, they were honking, they were brake checking each other, cutting each other off, leaving each other out in the passing lane, all kinds of stuff. And that's what was happening when the tragedy happened. It was a 2-lane stretch of highway on Highway 20 in near Burns, Oregon. And it was a winding bit of road, and the RV was in the main lane, and the trucker was trying to get around him, and he sped up so he couldn't. And then when the trucker tried to slow down to get behind him, he slowed down and left him out in the passing lane, and they hit a Ford Focus head on. It killed the woman instantly and maimed her husband pretty bad, and he's going to be facing a life without his wife and lots of rehabilitation, and he may never fully recover from it. Anyway, I think the thing that frustrates me about this is I don't know how or why you would want to stay mad at somebody for 90 minutes or 90 miles. I guess about 90 miles is 90 minutes probably, but I just don't get this. You know, we are professional drivers. We need to just help each other. You know, if somebody does something stupid to you, here's the way I explained this to my nephews one time. I had one of my nephew, Jake, was in the truck with me, and we were in Chicago, and I took him downtown on purpose, you know, to just show him what the traffic was like, you know, show him all the skyscrapers and stuff like that. And people were cutting me off left and right. And he was just like, he just looked over at me and he goes, "How come you're not angry at these people?" And I said, "Well, here's the thing, Jake." I said, "When you expect people to do stupid things, you're not surprised when they do stupid things. So just expect, we are truck drivers. We're professional truck drivers. We know people are going to do stupid things around us. Hopefully," and we don't expect that from other truck drivers, but it does happen. We all know it happens. There's some idiotic, stupid truck drivers out here too. This is a classic case of this. One guy, this RV driver, was probably the one who was wronged. So he retaliated by getting in front of the truck, by getting in front of the semi and slamming on his brakes. He should have just let that go. Everything would have went on by. He'd have just maybe mumbled some curse words at the trucker under his breath, and everything would have been said and done. Right? I mean, so let's just keep a cool head out there, guys, because the person who was charged in this was the guy who hit the car, which was the truck driver out in the passing lane because he couldn't get back in the other lane. So he was charged with this. He's going to spend 75 months in prison, which is unfortunately. But here's the thing that even makes me madder. The RV driver apparently didn't get anything. And I don't understand, because he brake checked, and then he was the one that was keeping the truck driver out in the passing lane. I just don't understand this. But, as my good friends Buck and Don over at the Trucking Podcast said when they talked about this, I think the final line in this in this article kind of sums it up. It says, Horizon maintains that it has been used as a scapegoat in the story, but the driver no longer works for the company. He now works for Swift Transportation. So there you go. If you ever are involved in a fatality, in an accident, and you don't go to jail, just go to Swift. They'll hire you. I try not to be too abusive on certain companies, but when you hire a driver in this situation, you are desperate and, well, quite honestly, stupid. So Swift, shame on you for hiring this guy. This guy shouldn't have a job. That's just my opinion. So again, the moral of the story is if somebody does something stupid around you, just let them do it. Just let it roll off your back. It's not that big of a deal. You're going to be fine in 5 minutes. You're going to forget all about it. But if you keep the road rage incident going, it could go for 90 miles and you're going to be pissed off for half your day. And you don't want that. Trust me, I'm pissed off during this podcast and I don't like it. So anyway, truckersreport.com. Link in the show notes for that one. Ugh. Drivers, quit being idiots, please. All right, this next story is for you tinfoil hat wearers out there. Well, sorry, I shouldn't go that far. This one's on overdriveonline.com. It's called ELD Data Handling. Privacy is paramount, but practices vary. Okay, here's the gist of this story. Well, first off, I am not a paranoid person by nature when it comes to these, people tracking me and stuff like that. But that's exactly what our phones are doing. They're tracking where we're at and all that stuff. And we don't often know where all that information is going. That's actually one of the reasons why I am a fan of Apple and the iPhone is that they value privacy more than Android and Google. But hey, whatever floats your boat. But anyway, I'm not going to go into great detail about this story, but if you are paranoid about people tracking you and stuff like that, there has been some questions raised about now that ELDs are in all trucks and are mandatory in all trucks, what are they doing with that data? And, of course, the companies who own these ELDs are saying, oh, well, we're just using the data to, make the system better. But how do we really know? I don't think there's any legislation or any monitoring of them to see what they're doing to this information. So could they sell it to third parties? So where they know where all of us are all the time, truckers? I don't know. I mean, I was thinking of another story recently where Trucker Path was bought out by a Chinese-based company, and a lot of truckers were pissed about that because we don't want Chinese government to be able to track us. And we all know that if a Chinese company has access to our stuff, probably the Chinese government does too. Again, I'm not super paranoid about that because I don't know why a Chinese government official would want to know where I am as a truck driver. But, it is a little annoying, I got to say. So anyway, I just changed that quite honestly on my app, the Trucker Path app. You can, like in the iPhone, you can change it to only use my GPS location when I'm actually using the app. So when I open it up, it will, show me where I'm at on the map and everything, show me where those truck stops are nearby. But when I turn it off, it'll quit tracking me. So that's good enough for me. But if you're paranoid about that sort of thing, you might want to check out this article and you might want to get rid of Trucker Path on your phone, although it is very useful. So anyway, link in the show notes again, if you're a paranoid type. All right, this next story. Well, basically, I thought Trevor, who goes by Kool-Aid in our Trucker Dump Slack group, I thought he was yanking my chain, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure it was him who reported on this, and I didn't believe him, but further research shows that he was not lying about it. This is a quarantine on a little critter, quite a beautiful little critter actually, but it's called the spotted lanternfly. Apparently there is a quarantine in 14 Pennsylvania counties, 3 New Jersey counties, and 1 county each in Delaware and Virginia. Thank God I don't run over there anymore, so I don't have to worry about this. What this is you're going to be required to have a permit on your truck. if you are traveling in these states. Now, not just traveling through, like for instance, if you stop for fuel or something like that, it's all fine, and just keep moving. But if you are stopping, it does not say if that means if you're like stopping for the night, to sleep, or if it just means delivering. I assume it means stopping for the night because it only mentions, it says additionally, drivers who stop in the quarantine zone just to fuel and keep moving are not required to have a permit. Oh, yeah. So, okay. I guess if you're sleeping there overnight or whatever, you will be required to have it. Here's the deal though. You're not really responsible for this. If you work for a trucking company, you are, I guess one person from the trucking company has to take the test, and then they are issued the permit, and then they can train the drivers at that company. And at that point, you will have to have the permit in the truck if you're going to be stopping. And they're going to be doing spot checks on these to see if there's any of these little critters are riding along, hitchhike along. So basically, the training trains you to recognize this little spotted lantern, and you're supposed to check your truck over, which sounds absurd to me still, that you got to check your truck for a bug to see if it's hitching a ride. It seems like to me that, if a bug hits my truck, it's going to be dead. And if it hitches a ride when I stop for a second, it's probably going to fly off at some point, right? Is it really going to ride all the way to another state? I don't know. Maybe it does. You hear about kittens catching a ride sometimes, so who knows? Anyway, if you're interested in this, or you're going to be in any of those states or those counties listed, be sure to check out the link in the show notes. This one's on overdriveonline.com. Weird story. All right, let's talk about a couple of new products I found. The first one's called Truck Park. It's an app, all one word, Truck Park. And I was thinking, okay, this is just a truck parking app, right? It just tells you where to park. We've got 1 million of those already, right? Well, this one's a bit different. Apparently you can reserve parking spaces with it. And again, I thought, well, can't you do that with the Pilot app or the TA app or, the Loves app? Or, well, Loves doesn't have reserved parking yet, I don't think. But, you can do that stuff through those kind of apps. But from what I'm seeing of this, and if I'm understanding it correctly, this is not those Pilot TA reserved spots. This is other spots. And right now it's only in major cities, such as, around New York, New Jersey, Chicago, LA, places like that, the big ones. And these are places that, like where somebody might park. The way I understand it now, I'm not sure I understand it completely. But from what I've been able to gather, it's like those places where like somebody who lives in Chicago would park their truck over the weekend, that kind of a thing. And they'll pay, whatever the price is. And in this case, it's $20 for overnight parking. Now that is a bit steep, but hey, if you really need a parking space near one of these big cities, it looks like you can use this Truck Park app to reserve those spots, and you can just do it like nightly instead of like probably what most of these guys do is pay like a monthly fee to be able to park there anytime they're not working, if they were going to near a big city. So anyway, if this interests you, like I said, it might be just a last ditch resort. If you check the TAs and the Pilots and they're all full, Flying J's and they're all full, then just, check out this app, see what they have available. It looks like some of these places, obviously, because they're just truck parking places, might only have like a porta potty. It's not like they got restaurants and all that stuff like that. Doesn't look like they have a whole lot of facilities, but when you're desperate, right? All right. I'll put a link in the show notes to this, and I'll have a link to the, to where you can download the app in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. This is a free app, by the way, but there is a charge, like say a $20 charge for overnight parking. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out and link in the show notes. And the next product I saw is pretty cool. I saw it over on the Truck Boss show when I was checking that out on YouTube. Link in the show notes to their page. This one is called the VSA Plug Saver. And I could really use this, but I'm not going to buy it. And here's why. You really have to own your trailer in order for this to work. But what it is, Have you ever had those electronic flickers in your trailer? Like you're bouncing down the road and, you realize that your lights are going off as the truck is bouncing and it's bouncing the pigtail and, just kind of a loose connection in there. And, there's things you can do to fix it. Like I'm always like, we have a lot of older equipment, so I'm always like shoving a paper clip down in there, or something like that. I would have taken wires and, kind of wiring it up and, kind of really forcing it into the pigtail socket there. Anything to keep that thing solid. Well, this VSA plug saver, remedies that. Basically, if you look, you probably should just go and to the link in the show notes and look at the video on how to install this. But basically, on most trailers, there is the little box on the front of the trailer where you plug the pigtail in, and there's 2 screws on it, just holding that piece on there. Well, if you take those 2 screws out, you can attach these 2 little rubber straps basically to it, and they fit right over your pigtail that comes from your truck. Hope I'm explaining this okay, but it just holds that thing in there totally solid, and it's really rigid. It really holds it firmly. Looks like a really cool device. He got a patent for it. The inventor is a trucker, and he got a patent for it in October of this year of 2018. So that's really cool, and he's really trying to promote this thing. And hey, if you've got a small fleet, or man, I would love to see my company implement this, but we have thousands of trailers, so that's probably not going to happen. But it is a quick install. They say like 3 minutes or less, really. And hey, I'm not mechanically inclined, like but I can probably put this thing in under 3 minutes too. It looks super simple. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes to the vsaplugsaver.com. You can just go there, link in the show notes also, or I put a link to the interview that they did over at Truck Boss Show and on YouTube. So you can check that out too, and where they talk to the inventor of the product. Really neat idea. So if you got use for that, check it out. All right, a few more stories here. We'll wrap this up. I wanted to point you to overdriveonline.com. They have a story, 7 fleets named to Forbes Best Large Employers list. The thing I like about the Forbes list is the survey is given to employees of all these different companies. Says it's more than 5,000 employees across 25 industries. And, they have open-ended questions. And so it really gets the employee's point of view on these things. And then they rate them according to the best companies, best large employers. So 7 trucking companies, which is kind of sad if you think about it. Out of a list of 500, there's only 7 trucking companies on it. So what's that tell you? Anyway, let me give you some of these. The one that squeaked in at the last was number 481, Old Dominion Freight. That's an LTL company. And of course, above that, we got United Parcel Service, UPS, Crete Carrier, Everett Express. Pincy Logistics comes in at number 226. 202 is FedEx, and the number 1 trucking company raised 300 spots this year to spot number 159, and that is Estes Express Line. So, hey, if you're looking for a good employer, you might want to check these guys out. And again, I like these surveys a lot better, and I trust these lists a lot more because they're done by, the actual employees who work for them, not some panel of, experts who are just evaluating things. So anyway, link in the show notes to this, overdriveonline.com. All right, next up, we got an opportunity for truckers who love country music or just love taking a free trip. This is a free trip to Nashville. This one is by Road Pro. It's called the Road Pro Ultimate Nashville Getaway Giveaway. Boy, that's a mouthful. Anyway, it includes a trip for 2, round trip airfare, a 2-night, 3-day stay at the Opryland Resort, tickets to the Grand Ole Opry for a Saturday night show, and $250 to spend at the Opryland Hotel restaurants. They'll also be treated to a backstage tour of the Grand Ole Opry by radio host Marsha Campbell, and they'll have an opportunity to take photos and meet with the stars backstage. That's kind of cool. So if you're a country music fan and you want a free trip, check out the link in the show notes. There's a link in this article where you can register. And they will be accepting entries through August 21st of this year, and they will announce the winner at the Great American Trucking Show in Dallas on August 23rd. So get on that. Personally, not a fan of country music, so you'll have one more chance to win because I'm not entering. And again, he laughs at his own joke. That's how I roll, baby. That's how I roll. All right, let's round up the news with a story that quite honestly just baffles me and leaves me in utter confusion. I am so mystified by this one. All right, here's the deal. It's 2015, and this driver, I'm not going to name him, he comes home. He is in San Antonio. His boss calls him, tells he needs to go back out and pick up another load. Well, the driver says, hey, I need to get a 34-hour reset. And the boss tells him to falsify his logs and go back to work and pick up the load. So the driver does it. Okay. There's my first misunderstanding. I don't understand this. He didn't have hours. He let somebody convince him to leave and go back out on the road. Okay. Fine. Mystified already. But anyway, here's what happens next. He goes back out on the road. He falls asleep at the wheel and rear-ends another truck. It left him with debilitating injuries, including a crushed pelvis and broken ribs. Okay. Well, that's sad. But he did leave tired from the house, I assume. By the way, the article did say that the boss told him to falsify his logs, but go out the following morning and pick up the load, which means he was at home and he did get some sleep. So again, I'm still confused by this. Anyway, falls asleep at the wheel, wrecks his truck, injures himself. Okay. Now, instead of him getting charged for a crime in this, for wrecking, driving fatigued or whatever, he turns around and sues his employer for saying that they forced him to falsify his logs. And apparently other drivers came out of the woodwork saying that the same employer had forced them to do it too. Here's the kicker of it. This guy, a jury found that this guy was awarded $5 million for pain and suffering, as well as $75 million in punitive damages. Now, I'm not really good at math, but that's $80 million for going out on the road, hitting someone. You see why I'm confused? I am so confused by this. It's like Clifford Peterson was saying in that article earlier I was talking about. We are the captain of our own ship. You don't let a carrier tell you that you have to go back out. Stand up for yourself, for Pete's sake. Now maybe this guy was greedy. Maybe he took the load because he wanted the extra money. Fine and dandy, I understand that. But if you don't have freaking hours, you don't have freaking hours. It just maddens me that, this guy let himself be bullied and then he sues and now he's set for the rest of his life. It just angers me, and once again, I'm pissed off. So great. Anyway, if someone can explain to me, I get the fact that the carrier was clearly in the wrong here. They were always telling, their drivers to falsify their logs. Okay, fine. Maybe they can't do that with e-logs anymore. Maybe they can. Maybe they can change things in the background and, fix it for them and let them keep driving. But regardless, again, ultimately it comes down to the driver. You are the driver. Do not let anyone tell you to drive illegally, whether that be equipment, whether that be hours of service, whatever it is, if they called you from home and you hadn't made it back to the DMV to renew your CDL, would you let them convince you to go out? And, some of these people are like, well, I don't want to lose my job. Do you really want to work for a company that's going to force you to do that? I can tell you, I've driven for 22 years over the road and I have never had a company tell me to falsify my logs. They might have suggested that it would be okay if I did it, but I have never had one force me to do it. And maybe that's because I would never let myself be forced. So drivers, quit being a wuss. Just quit being a wuss. Stand up for yourself. Do what's right. Do what's right for the motoring public and for yourself. For Pete's sake. Great. Now I'm going to go have to take a chill pill. I need a hot tea or something. Relax a bit. Ugh. So anyway, thank God the news is over. Let's get on with the rest of the show. Man. Volvo. You know, that's kind of fun to say. You know what else is fun? Going to volvotrucks.us to check out the new VNL series. Man, the exterior of this beast is sexy. I mean, we're talking Jennifer Aniston in a bikini sexy. And if you've never seen that, be sure to watch the movie. Just go with it. But I digress. But you know, beauty is only skin deep. It's what's inside that matters. Well, the VNL has got you covered. The way Volvo sees it is that a rested trucker is a safe trucker. And you can sure tell when you look at the interior of the VNL. Everything is designed with the driver comfort in mind. And of course, this starts with the mattress. I've been driving for 22 years over the road, and I have never seen a mattress that is this thick or plush. It's got springs in it, it's got some memory foam in it. This sucker is super, super comfortable. If you can't sleep on this heavenly cloud, well, then you've got bigger issues, and it's not your mattress. But you know, you aren't always sleeping in the bunk area. Often when I'm on the bunk, I'm just sitting around watching TV or whatever. Well, this is where the Volvo shines. Volvo is proud to offer the first integrated reclining bunk in a sleeper. Yes, you heard that right. You can prop the back of this sucker up and sit right there and do whatever you got to do. And actually, it makes it even better because there's a little swivel desk that sits flush against the back wall. But anytime you need it, you just reach up there, grab it, pull it out. You can set your laptop, your iPad up there for watching movies, or heck, you can even eat right there. Just don't spill chili in your bed. That's not good. When you're done eating, just fold that little swivel desk right back up against the wall and it's out of the way. While you're laying around being lazy back there, be sure to check out the control panel on the back wall. You can control the lights with it, the sound, you can even lock the doors with it. And I believe there's even an option where you can adjust the window shades. And speaking of the window shades, these are not your annoying Velcro style. These are a slide up, slide down, super easy peasy. No more are you going to have to stick a piece of cloth up against a window and hope that the Velcro holds, because you know it never does. But hey, you got to get up off this bunk eventually, right? And when you do, sometimes you got to get up into that top bunk. That's never easy, especially considering the shape some truckers are in nowadays. Well, Volvo's taking care of that. And the VNL, they've got a telescoping ladder that folds and locks into place behind one of the cabinets so it's out of your way. But when you need it, man, it's a lot easier to climb a ladder than it is to get a pogo stick out or something, right? But hey, don't just take my word for it. Head on into your local Volvo dealer and check it out yourself, or go to volvotrucks.us and watch some videos, check out some photos, and see what this new VNL series is all about. It's a sweet ride. Again, you can learn more at volvotrucks.us. And thanks to Volvo Trucks for sponsoring this episode of Trucker Dump, and for letting me be silly during these ads.
Well, I don't really have a Trucker Grub segment this time around, so why don't we just...
Wait. Sure you do.
What? Who is that?
You know who it is.
Your voice does sound familiar.
It's Fred.
Who?
Fred. You know, good old Fred from episode 48, the annoying one. Long-time listener, second-time caller.
Oh, yeah, I remember you now.
Well, you should, because I'm your biggest fan.
Really?
Ah, come on, you knew that. I mean, you're so smart, so funny, so charming, and also good-looking. And then there's that voice. Ah, those dulcet tones.
Whoa, okay, man, this is getting a bit weird. Perhaps we should focus.
On what?
Well, I assume you're here for a reason.
Oh, yeah, I got a Trucker Grub segment for you.
Oh, okay, well, then why don't I step aside and let you have at it?
It would be my pleasure. But first, shouldn't you play the segment intro?
Yeah, I guess that would be appropriate.
Give us a bottle of your finest champagne, 5 shrimp cocktails, and some bread for my brother.
What's that?
Sushi.
Sushi?
Boy, some chicken wings have really hit the spot.
This is a tasty burger.
Don't play with your food, eat it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Proceed.
Okie dokie. Feel free to chime in any time here, because I'm sure anything you have to say will be super witty and also insightful.
Okay, dude, getting weird again. So what you got for us?
I want to tell you about pizza. More specifically, Nancy's Pizza. They're all over the Chicago area, but the one I'm talking about's in Litchfield, Illinois on I-55 exit 52.
Hey, I've been there. I love that place. But I don't recall them having any truck parking, do they?
Once again, that big, beautiful brain of yours is exactamundo.
Dude, creepy.
What else? There is parking nearby at the Fast Stop convenience store, which is just east of the interstate. Can't miss it. There isn't much parking, but Nancy's is just a short walk from there. It's out by the highway, so you'll need to walk across the parking lots for the Huddle House and the Holiday Inn Express. You ain't going to want to stop at those places, though. Trust me, though, it's not a far walk. I took my nephew Joel there when I went.
Hey, wait a second. I took my nephew there, too. Even weirder, his name is Joel. That's kind of a coincidence.
Not really.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, I asked my sister to name her firstborn Joel because I've been listening to your podcast for years. And who better to model my life after? Anyway, my nephew loved it. Did yours?
Yeesh, dude, creepy. But yeah, we both thought it was pretty awesome. It was the first time either of us had Chicago-style pizza. I thought Joel's eyes were going to pop out of his freaking head when the waitress dropped that giant pie on the table. It was truly the best pizza either of us had ever eaten.
That's what I thought. Great minds think alike. Am I right? Am I right?
Sure, man. Whatever you say. Say, maybe you should tell the listeners more about Nancy's Pizza.
Well, I could, but why deprive them of your awesome voice?
Okay. Like I said earlier, their specialty is Chicago-style deep dish pizza, but they also serve thin crust pizza, pasta, wings, sandwiches, and, well, salads if you're into wasting your valuable stomach space. For dessert, they've got vanilla bean cheesecake, chocolate flourless cake, and of course, cannolis. Yummy. They even have wine, beer, and liquor if you're parked for the night. Now, I gotta tell you, this pizza isn't cheap, but it is worth it. And that should mean something coming from a cheapskate like me. For a 9-inch pie with cheese, that's a small, and add 2 additional toppings, you'll be dropping about $13 or $14. But it's so thick, you'll be able to take some in a doggy bag for later. So you can see that taking on an adult beverage and a dessert, you might have to put off your car payment. But you know what? I still say totally worth it. Would you agree, Fred?
I sure would, but then again, I agree with pretty much everything you say.
Great. So would you like to finish off by telling these good folks how to learn more about Nancy's Pizza?
Sure, you can go to nancyspizza.com, or you can just take mine and my best friend's word for it and hit exit 52 on I-55 in Litchfield, Illinois. Go east and you'll see the Fast Stop where you can park. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. But good luck finding truck parking if you get there too late in the day.
Thanks, Fred. You did an excellent job.
Wow, I got a compliment from the Todd McCann.
If you say so. So, Fred, you got any last words before we close out the segment?
Yeah, you're my hero.
Oh, brother. All right, well, that little weird segment's up. Hey, what can I say? Fred's a fan. Can't really blame him, can you? Of course not. All right, let's get on with the main topic. You know, I've been wanting to do this for a really long time. What is this? Well, I've been wanting to feature a different type of trucking job. Just every now and then, kind of a new segment where, well, not a new segment of the show, so to speak, but just a new featured podcast every once in a while. We'll just go back and find somebody who does a weird trucking job, something that isn't, you know, your regular old van driver or reefer driver or whatever, and we'll have him on the show to talk about it. Well, today I was fortunate enough to have a friend, Shannon Holden, who I've known for a really long time online. Funny how you can have friends that that long just online, but yep, I consider him a friend. He is a rental equipment truck driver, meaning he delivers rental equipment to job sites and stuff like that. And, well, let's just get into the interview, and you can see what he does for yourself. All right, I've got Shannon Holden on Skype today. How's it going there, Shannon?
Good, man. How you doing?
Pretty good, except for those Skype issues we had earlier, but we got this all sorted out, man.
Awesome.
Yeah. You know what? I was looking back in email, and do you realize we have been speaking since 2013?
Yeah, that exactly. And I remember that, just like women talk about when their children were born. That's when my MacBook was born. My MacBook was brand new.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, because
when I found you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I was looking back at that, and do you realize you were still using a Yahoo account at the time?
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I thought I'd been on Gmail forever, but apparently not, huh?
No, I found it. I was looking back in a Gmail, and I said, I know there's an earlier one than that. And I looked, and sure enough, Yahoo.
Oh, you know, I want to say that there was some, I don't know what iOS version it was, but I think there was a time in iOS versions where they were really having issues with Yahoo being pushed to phones or something, I think. And that may have been when I got rid of it and went with Gmail, because at the time I think iOS was still friends with Google, you know, with Google Maps and stuff, I think.
Yeah. Well,
at least that's kind of what I think anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's just odd. It just goes to show the internet. You know, I feel like you and I are really good friends, but we've never met in person. We've just known each other online for a long time. You know,
I know it sucks. We got close a time or two, but it didn't happen.
No, it did not. Yeah. So anyway, folks, this is what you're in store for today, because Shannon and I are likely to go into lots of rat holes that we're never going to come out of, but we'll try to stay focused. All right. So you are what is your title? What would you call yourself?
Well, I don't call myself a truck driver, because I think that it's like that puts a bad image in my head sometimes when I hear truck driver, because I think it's a flip-flop wearing dude that's way overweight, you know, and he's got his McDonald's headset on and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. So I always just tell my friends I'm a driver. I think I have like the perfect job. I get to drive a truck, but I don't work for a trucking company. I actually work for an equipment rental company.
Okay. So you haul rental equipment, such as what kind of stuff you haul? And remember, most of us don't haul, this kind of stuff. So if you got some weird name for it, please explain what it is.
Yep. I haul everything from like a 19-foot scissor lift, which is a little battery operated, like you would see, maybe even in a Lowe's or a Home Depot or something. Two guys can go on it, and goes up about 19 feet in the air, and it's about 30 inches wide roughly to go through business doors. Okay. Those are little. I haul everything from that to backhoes, skip loaders, water trucks, dump trucks, and then we have our business is a lot of booms, what we call like a 65-foot boom, 85-foot boom, all the way up to like a 150-foot boom. Like some people call them a man lift. It's got like four wheels, but then a big long boom with the basket on the end that raises way up in the air to literally reach, 4, 5, 6, 7-story buildings and stuff.
Right. Okay. And I'll try to include some photos. We'll get some photos together and try to put some of these in the show notes. And, so check out the show notes or go to abouttruckdriving.com and search for Trucker Dump 138 if you want to see photos of some of the stuff Shannon hauls. And I know one of your favorite things to haul is utility lights, right? You like those utility lights?
Light towers. Yeah, the light towers. Those everybody kind of grimaces when they have to haul them, and they're not that big of a deal. They obviously have to be forked on and forked off.
Right, you can't just drive it off. Yeah, right. Yeah,
correct. Yeah, it's just a little trailer, tiny little trailer that you can move around if it's on level ground. Just one decent sized guy can move it around, but you won't deliver one or two. If we're going anywhere, we'll go out to like the raceway or something, and they'll get 30 of them, and I fit about 14 on my trailer, so there'll be 3 or 4 guys, and loading them with a warehouse fork, which is probably what you're used to seeing, is pretty simple. But then when we get to the job site, a lot of the times we have a reach fork, which is kind of like the boom in a way. The forks reach way out, up to 30, 40 feet in some instances. So it's a much bigger piece of equipment. It's kind of hard to get the forks through the fork loops on the light towers. Yeah. And then everyone has to be tied down with 2 chains, and it's crazy. Like you use every binder on the truck and every chain on the truck just to tie them down.
Yeah. If the listener can't tell, Shannon complains about these quite a bit in our Slack groups.
Yeah. I hate those light towers.
Price of doing the job, the price of being home every day, Well,
that's true. That's true.
That is one of the benefits I've seen from this rental, just from talking to you and everything. It's one of the few trucking jobs where you can actually be home every day,
Yep.
Yeah. So you go to work at what time?
Typically 5 since, I was with another company who was bought out by this larger company that I'm with, and they're great to me. They're treating me really well. The pay went up. I have nothing to complain about. So typically my days start at 5 and end usually around 3:30. A 10 and a half hour day is about normal. Sometimes he'll bring me in as early as 4. And then there's some days, I put in 13-hour day. Monday and Tuesday were 13-hour days. So it just summer comes on and the days are longer, obviously. So people want to work longer and they need more equipment.
Yeah. And, if you think about, I'm sitting here thinking, God, man, that's pretty early, 5 a.m. to work in the morning. But ideally, you are there on the job site or at the warehouse or wherever when that place opens, right? I mean, is that the idea of it? You're there, so you're not delaying their work schedule at all.
Exactly. And most job sites, especially if it's in a neighborhood, they have a curfew and they won't let you on site before 6 a.m. anyway, because of the neighbors, they don't want the noise. So by the time I get to work, do the pre-trip, typically I'm preloaded at the end of the night. So like tomorrow morning, I'm already loaded. By the time I do my pre-trip, and if I need fuel, when I get there, it's close enough to where they won't give us a hard time about being too early and making too much noise.
Right. Okay. So you're talking about preloading. Are you the one that preloads all this stuff, or does you have somebody else to do it?
No, we have guys that help us. What they call the pit crew. This is kind of new to me since November, since this new company bought us out.
Okay.
We have what we call the pit area, which 3 trucks can fit in, and it's really not a pit. It's just a big wide area that we can safely load 3 trucks side by side. And then we have our pit crew, who are the guys who will help us take our chains off and help us unload. But when it comes to loading, most drivers, and me included, I want to load my truck and I want to tie my stuff down. That's just I don't care how well I know you. I want to tie down myself.
Well, you kind of have to, because, it all falls down on the trucker. If something falls off that truck, it's nobody's fault but your own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if something falls off my truck, it's not it's usually not something light. It's going to hurt someone bad. So I don't want to take any chances with that.
Yeah, I totally understand. Okay. So you mentioned just a second ago that you actually load your own trailers, or you get a little bit of help here and there. Does that mean like you never have an opportunity just to drop a trailer and let somebody else load it? Anything like that? Or is it always just you stay hooked to the trailer, you load it yourself, and you unload? Obviously, you unload on the other end by yourself because you don't have any help. Or is that wrong? No, there'd be construction guys, right? That'll help?
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah. Sometimes there are construction guys with, like we were talking about earlier, light towers. It's not often, but it's probably half and half. I'll get to a job site and I'll call the guy when I'm 30 minutes out or so. Say, hey, I've got 10 light towers coming your way, and he's like, great, meet me here and here, and I'll have the guy ready. And there's a guy with a reach fork there waiting, and he's unloading them quicker than I can get my chains off. So that's awesome. But yeah, no, I never drop a trailer and let somebody else unload it. I leave, like right now I'm loaded. I'll leave tomorrow morning. I'll go deliver what I have on board, and then in my handheld, and I won't actually get my run. So I know what I have on my trailer right now, but I don't know where I'm going yet. And that doesn't get updated until around midnight. So tomorrow morning, first thing when I wake up, I'll sign into my handheld and my runs will be there. And I'm like, okay, great. These 2 scissors go here and this skip loader goes here. And then once I'm empty, then I'll do pickups, and I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4 pickups, typically no more than 3 or 4, kind of work my way back toward the branch. And then I'll come back in. The goal is never leave empty, never return empty. Obviously, that's wasting money.
Okay. So are you ever reloading back at the place and heading back out again in the same day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, on average, probably 3 runs a day. I'll do my first run in the morning. I'll get back around 8:30, 9 o'clock. If all goes well tomorrow morning, I'll unload that. Then the guys fuel it and start doing what they call they turn it. They get it ready to rent again. And then they'll have it back in that pit I was talking about. They'll have like 6 lanes, and they'll say, you're lane 3, and everything in lane 3 I'll load in the order that it's there and tie it down and head on again for round 2. And then again, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 runs, depending on how close we are.
Yeah. You mentioned something just a second ago that's kind of confusing to me, actually. You said that you will often preload a trailer in the evening, but you don't know where you're going till the next day. That seems weird to me, you know, because in over the road, you know, you get your pre-plan. Here it is. You go here, you pick it up, and, you know, you go from there. But it seems to me that if they know what the product is that they need, they would also know the location. Why do you suppose that is?
They do. They just don't always share it with us. When I first started, we had actually 3 dispatchers. And at the end of the night, when the app that we use on our phones is called Transport Ace. And when we would go to do our post trip within that app and then log out, it would ask us, do you want to preload? And even though we may have already physically loaded, then you can say yes or say no. And if you say no, then tomorrow morning when you log in, it's going to obviously tell you need to load. But if you choose yes, then it tells you your list. Load this first, load this second, load this third. And then once you say, okay, yes, it's loaded, then it closes you out of the app until the following morning. However, we've lost one dispatcher, so it's often not preloaded in our handhelds. He knows the equipment and he knows where it's going. And he tells the kids out in the pit to get it loaded and get it ordered in the right lanes, but they just don't tell us where it's going. So if I get back before 3:30, 4, the computer outside is still on, and then I can look and say, oh, yeah, I know where I'm going now. But if I don't get back in time and that computer's already logged out, I could go inside the office and ask, but I don't. I just like, all right, it'll be a surprise in the morning.
I just always kind of liked, that's one aspect of this new job I don't like is, you know, I'm waiting for a ready call right now, and they'll call me 2 hours. I'm at the hotel and they'll call me 2 hours ahead of time and just say, you are, you know, got a 10:30 out for Indianapolis. And I don't know until then, you know, so like my wife used to be able to say, what time are you going to be home this weekend? And I would be able to tell her 2 days ahead of, you know, a lot of times 2 days in advance because so much pre-planning, you know, but with this job, you don't have any clue until, you know, it's like it could be Saturday morning and I don't know. I know I'm going to be home Saturday night or something like that, but I don't know when. I don't know how I'm getting there. It's just the pre-planning is frustrating. So to me, it'd be like, you know, you're getting all your stuff loaded and then you go home. I feel like I'd want to know, you know, where I'm going that way. You know, if you know you got to go all the way across the other side of town, you might want to show up a little early or something like that. But
I agree.
Yeah.
And it will get back to that at some point. They keep telling us, because I'm the same way. I want to come home and look at my first stop, and I will actually look at it on my own phone or my iPad and look at it on, you know, Google, satellite, whatever, and say, oh yeah, I think I remember passing that before, and I know the entrance is actually on this little side street, not the big main street like the address is. And that way, first thing in the morning, I've kind of cleared it within myself, and I know exactly where I'm going and which streets I need to turn on.
Yeah.
And also, what's really handy, and I keep telling my dispatcher this, is that a lot of these guys, like I leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, and who has ordered the equipment is the owner or the supervisor on the job. Well, he's in bed at 5 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, the grunts are the one waiting for me on the equipment, but I don't have their phone numbers. So it's helpful to me if I come home like this time of the day and I have a phone number. I'll call him now and say, hey, I've got a delivery for you in the morning. I just wanted to double check. Is that address correct? Because I don't think there's a building there or whatever. And he'll say, oh, no, I'm glad you called. Yeah, it's not 1836. It's 1863 or whatever, which happens, unfortunately, a lot.
Yeah.
But if I would have waited till tomorrow morning to call him, he's not going to answer.
Yeah.
So then I'm kind of screwed and I have to figure it out on my own. So,
well, just another example of companies not running the way we truckers want them to run.
Nope, exactly. And I've screamed this, you know, from the mountaintops in Phoenix, and I'm sure other cities are this way, but Phoenix could not be easier to get around in. And when I say Phoenix, I mean the entire greater Phoenix area. All of our addresses are even numbers on the north and the west side of the streets and odd numbers on the south and east side of the streets.
Yeah.
So if you send me to 1835 West Washington, well, I'm looking on the south side. And now if it's actually just one digit off, and I've had a dispatcher tell me this, that, oh, it's just one number off. Yeah, but it's on the other side of the road.
Yeah, right. I'm not looking there.
I'm coming down a dark road. Yeah, I'm looking on the south side. But guess what? By the time I realize it's on the north side, I might be 4 miles before I can get back there because I don't have a pickup. I can't turn around in an intersection.
Right.
So
yeah, and you got to be careful too if you're hauling oversized too. You never know where you're going to end up.
Well, oversized is one of those times where that's when I would definitely pre-plan everything at night and know exactly where I'm going and where I can stop and where I can pull over and stuff. Luckily, I never had big enough loads to where I had to have escorts or anything. So I was by myself. But yeah, I knew exactly where I was going then for that reason.
All right. So you are driving, I think we forgot to mention, but you operate in the Phoenix area. Is that right?
Yep. Greater Phoenix area.
Okay. Well, Greater Phoenix. How far out is that? How far out do you operate?
Well, any city you can think of around Phoenix, from Glendale, Peoria, Gilbert. My yard is actually in Gilbert, but if you go to the stoplight right down the street, then you're in Mesa, and if you go the other direction, then you get into Santan Valley and Gilbert, and it's all one big. One big mess. You can't show one
big glob of traffic is what it is.
It is. That's all it is. Absolutely. It's a mini LA pretty much is what it is.
Yeah.
The traffic is just horrible.
Yeah. With lots of people who are really hot all the time and road rage.
Yeah. But that's kind of the good news though. However, about the summer is that all of the snowbirds, God love them, have gone home.
Right. Yeah.
So and you don't have school buses to deal with right now, which is another plus.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you operate in a pretty tight area. So does that mean you do not have to run an electronic logbook?
Yeah, I guess technically we don't have to, but we do. Our company makes us.
Huh.
And we've been on, even with my old company before we were bought out, we're on Geotab. It's my old company was iPad. These are Samsung Galaxy, but
yeah. Well, we're Apple nerds, both of us. So yeah, that's right. Totally disgusting to us. We're like, how you say that? That's awful.
Yeah, but it works. It works. And then we have a company app also on our phones that we don't do paper at all.
Okay. So all the like signing paperwork and dispatching and all that stuff, is that all run through the tablet?
Everything. It's just a phone, Samsung Galaxy 8. And I have to be honest, it's a good phone. It's solid. I never have any, force closes or anything. They call it our HHDs, handheld device.
Okay. Yeah, that's what my new company calls them too. I'd never heard that before, but yeah.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. And I don't know what the heck my thing's running. I don't even want to ask. It's ancient. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so what do you think the logic is? Do you know anything about why they would run logbooks if they didn't have to?
No, I guess I really don't. The only thing I can think is it seems that insurance companies and politicians run the companies more than the company owners do nowadays, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that, like if God forbid one of us is in an accident, then they have something to fall back on and say, look, he's perfectly compliant. And
right.
But yeah, we rarely run. Now we do have some drivers, and occasionally they'll send me to Yuma, or I've been as far as almost to the California border to a little town. Well, I actually have been down almost to the border in Ajo, Arizona, but and then that we would have to run the logbook then, and it would be a hassle to have to come back and do the 7 days. So maybe that's why, because at any given moment we might have to run to the edge of the state.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are doing all your driving, what kind of truck and trailer are you using here?
I just got a new one. To me, as everybody in Slack knows, I had an old Mac that I loved. I loved that thing, man. That thing was, it was set up before I got a hold of it, and it really had some balls. It would move.
Yeah.
And not only run fast, I didn't care about that, but it would pull. At the time when I was with my last company, I'd haul a 35,000 pound class excavator, which is oversized for me. And I would be grossing right around 112,000 pounds.
Ooh.
And it would pull up the hills. I would have to slow down to get behind other company trucks because I couldn't legally pass them. But anyway, it got long in the tooth, and because it was owned by my previous company, and this company leases everything, They brought me a replacement. That's a 2014 Freightliner, but it's actually a nice truck. I don't have some of the bells and whistles that I had in my own Mac, but it's a good truck. It drives great, no rattles. It's got good power, great AC, which is important to me.
Yeah, in Phoenix. Yeah, that's kind of important. Yeah,
absolutely. And the company's really good with that too. I mean, they take good care of them. Basically, if something like the AC doesn't work, they won't make you drive it.
Oh, cool.
That's kind of like our little, I think respite is the right word. We're out in the sun kicking our butt, and then we deserve to get back in the truck for 10 or 15 minutes and kind of cool off a little bit.
Yeah, I know some of the old time truckers would laugh at that and think, I'm like, it's a safety issue, and they're like, oh, we didn't have a safety issue back when we ran trucks, And,
yep, that's true.
Hey, all fine and dandy, but it's a safety issue. Let's call it a safety issue. That way you get AC no matter what.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But okay, so obviously this truck is a day cab, right? Because you don't need to sleep in it.
Yep.
Yeah. And for any newbies out there that don't know what a day cab is, just a truck with just the short trucks without the sleeper on it. You don't have any use for it. And the shorter it is, the easier it is to back and all that stuff. And I'm guessing with some of the trailers you have, backing, it can be an issue at certain places. Are you just hauling a regular flatbed? I don't think you are you?
It's a drop deck, hydraulic, beaver tail, some call it a Wren tail. I think is actually my trailer manufacturer is Leadwell. I think they actually call it a Wren tail. So it's got the upper deck, we call it, which obviously is where it hooks onto the fifth wheel, and then it drops down. The upper deck is about 54 inches high, roughly. Chest, shoulder height, roughly, and then it drops down to about 35 inches for the rest of the trailer. It's a flatbed from there on out. So I've got a 48 foot. So I've got about a 10 foot upper deck, and then about a 38 foot on the lower deck where I can load stuff. And then the back, the tail, the last about 6 feet or 7 feet of the tail folds way up hydraulically, and then a secondary tail folds from underneath that out straight. So then it's just a big tail sticking up in the air, and then I drop it all on the ground.
Okay.
Once I drop my airbags, I've literally got a height of about 33, 34 inches, depending on the airbags drop it, I think about 3 inches roughly. So it's a really low deck height, which makes it nice with, especially a lot of these little scissor lifts like I was talking about. They're really low to the ground, sometimes only like an inch or two of clearance.
Oh, well, yeah, because they want to have a low center of gravity, so they don't tip over. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, you mentioned earlier that you haul oversize. Is that a normal part of rental equipment hauling?
It used to be. I'm the fairly new guy, even at my last company, and I quickly became the oversized guy. And nobody else wanted it, and I didn't mind. I mean, it kind of sucked, but the good thing about the oversized was most of the runs weren't quick runs, so it gave me a chance to get in the truck and drive for an hour and a half typically.
Yeah, kind of bring back your over the road days, kind of.
Yeah, and it was nice getting a little bit of windshield time. But now, and again, that was with the old company. With the new company, we actually have 3 branches. My old company, we only had 1 in Phoenix and 1 in Tucson. Now, my current company we actually have 3. Well, we have actually more. We have a bunch that are nothing but pump supplies and generators. I mean, like huge generators that they'll drop off at hospitals and stuff if necessary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But those are separate branches altogether. But for the 3 that I deal with, we have 3 now that are. One is in Gilbert where I work, and then there's one in North Phoenix, and then there's one kind of in West Phoenix. And the West Phoenix store is 90% dirt equipment. So I haven't hauled oversized excavators since September of last year, and probably never will again, because our dirt store handles that. However, I still do haul oversized with these big booms I was talking about. Like a 135 boom is about 48,000 pounds. So it puts me over weight, but I'm not over width or over height or anything.
Okay. And do you just have like a blanket oversized permit, or do you have to get one each time you haul that, or how's that work?
Nope, it's a yearly. In fact, it's just my dispatcher was just talking to me today. I don't have one in this current truck, and he's like, "Oh, I got to get you oversized." I'm like, "No, you don't. No, you don't. I'm good," because now he can't see me to get these big booms. So
right,
and the big booms. If you remember me a while back, we're talking Phoenix is going to 5G everywhere. So we're running these big booms all over just like crazy because they're reaching up on the cell towers, installing new antennas or whatever they have to do.
Oh, okay.
So I can't move them right now, and it really makes me sad.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he'll get on that real soon.
You're right. Yeah. Well, man, I'm just thinking about this and all this stuff you're hauling on there. You've got to really be good at strapping, chaining, and all that stuff like that. I mean, those chains must weigh a ton.
Yeah, they'll give you a good workout for sure. I use mostly 90% of all of our chains are 3/8 G70 grade, and I know a certain listener and Slack participant will probably find holes in everything I'm saying because I don't know all of the specifics.
Kevin.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything.
Northern Crummy.
I was going to let the cream rise to the top on its own, but. 99% of all of my chains are 3/8, and I just have them cut in various lengths. Every driver is a little bit different, and I've kind of found a little groove that works for me. And then I have a few 1/2-inch chains that we use for like the big booms or the big excavators and stuff like that. But
I know that you're kind of a big guy, so you can handle this stuff. Is this a type of thing that a 5'2" trucker can handle?
Oh yeah. We've got a couple of guys here at this new company. I've got 9 drivers now. I'm the 9th one. So I came from a company with only 3 drivers. So when one driver was sick or on vacation, boy, we really felt it. Now there's 9 just in my branch.
Wow.
So we can miss 2 guys and sometimes not even really feel it, which is awesome. But yeah, we've got 2 guys that are really smaller guys. And the way the binders are made, the old style you were talking a while ago about the safety issues with AC. Like I can think back when my dad used to drive trucks, they actually had, I think they were called breakovers, to where you open up this big device and you hook the chains and then you use like a cheater pipe on the handle and slam it over. And over.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. You don't have that kind of thing.
Make sure you don't have anything in the way. Oh gosh, no, we have it made nowadays. In fact, I'll even tell you how we have even more so than that. But what we have are, I'm sure there's a name for them, but we just call them binders. And they're actually threaded rods with they look kind of like that boomer that I was talking about, but you hook the chain on each end. They have a hook on each end, and then it's like a ratchet. So you just ratchet, and then, ratchet real fast with your hand until it gets snug. And then you give it a good 3 or 4 turns, and that equipment's not going anywhere.
Oh, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about, but hey, I'm going to see if I can find a picture of these and put it up so we kind of get an idea of what's going on there.
But then now we're actually there. They gave one to me about, it's been probably a month ago now, and had me do like a test on it, and I liked it. And another branch we know has them. They're called a speed binder, and they're the coolest thing in the world. And I know people will say, oh, what a baby. You can't even use a binder anymore. Mm-hmm. But I tell you, at the end of a 12, 13-hour day, you feel it in your shoulders and your elbows and stuff from those binders all day. These speed binders actually use a 1/2-inch drill that they give us as well. And it's basically like a little gear, like a pinion gear in a way, like a worm gear clamp, if you could know what that is. And you still hook the hooks, but you put your drill on it and just zip, and it tightens it right down. It's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's so cool. And we have an extra battery, and then we carry a charger in our truck with our inverter, and one battery lasts about all day, roughly, depending on how much you use it. They got us 10 binders. So occasionally we'll use more if I'm hauling a bunch of different equipment, but it's and you can truly feel it at the end of the day. You can feel less pain in your shoulders and your neck area.
I kind of want one of those drill things, and I don't even have a need for one. But
they're so awesome. They're so awesome. And it's funny too, because you pull up on a job site and it's like a prestige still.
Oh.
People will see you, with that drill, and like, that's really cool. And I'm like, I know, right?
Yeah, I'm the bomb, man. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. You're over there like a caveman with your binder and ratchet and stuff. And here I am with my DeWalt drill. Look at me.
You're looking down over your nose at him. Like,
absolutely.
You peasant.
But then other people are like, really, dude, really what? You need somebody to unload it for you too? So where's it end? I don't know.
Yeah, right. Okay. So this stuff is heavy. It takes some strength. So, okay, this is going to be a bit sensitive. I know I have female listeners out there, and, we all like to think that males and females are equal in every way, but let's be honest, women are often not as strong as men. So is this a job that a woman can do physically, do you think?
Yeah. I probably, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, no, there's no way, because I look at the wife I have, and I think she can't do what I can do. And I don't mean that in any sexist way. It's just simple, simple, what do you call it? Physics.
Yeah.
She just doesn't have the body that I have to pull on those binders.
Yeah. The evil overlord couldn't do it either. I know that. So
yeah. But there are some women, and there's one down in Tucson, in fact, and I see her every now and then. She works for a towing company, but they do more stuff for like us than they actually do towing. They do a lot of motorhome towing. They have, I'm drawing a blank on the brand of trailers they have now, but they're like a complete flatbed that the axles slide all the way forward, and basically they can load a bus that's all one level.
Can you elaborate on the benefits of this situation?
And I see her down there, and she's not a big girl. She's a small, petite looking girl. And I've spoke to the guys at our branch down there, and they say, yeah, she's worked for that other company for like 5 or 6 years. So obviously she's making it work. She's doing it, and just out there rough and tough with all the guys. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, probably a lot of it's just attitude, thinking whether they could or, I can't do that, and if you go in with the can-do attitude and you just figure out a way, Yeah.
Well, that's very true.
Yeah. I just, it's just one of those things. Just, man, there's
absolutely. No, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, I was just on Facebook today, and the way these guys treat women over there is just appalling to me. It's
horrible.
Yeah. It's awful. It's like they can't do anything, and, that they have to give sexual favors to get anything.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're like that and you're listening to my podcast, quit listening to my podcast. Go find somebody else.
Quit downloading. Absolutely.
I don't want you around me. Yeah.
Yeah. The wife and I don't know if you leave this in or not, but the wife and I were huge Dateline fans, and it's horrible because all of the Datelines are always bad. They're, someone got killed or murdered or raped and then killed. And 99% of the time, it's the husband or boyfriend or ex-boyfriend that's doing it to the wife. Every now and then the woman does it to the man.
Yeah.
But, more often than not. And I told the wife, I don't know that will that ever end, because the truth is, I mean, women can get things that can become equalizers, obviously, guns and
poisons
and stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, more often than not, the man's frame is larger than a woman's frame, and a man can typically overpower a woman. So it's kind of sad, and men use that to their advantage, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, we went into a weird tangent there, but hey, I took us there, so that's right. It's good to address, because truckers need to lighten up. A woman can do the job. We just got a new woman under me. Well, that doesn't sound good, but under me, seniority wise, the new job, and she's doing great. Yeah. So, women, you can do this job if you want to do it.
Absolutely.
All right. So, I was thinking there was something that you mentioned early on about working as a truck driver for a non-trucking company. And I remember you mentioned something about holiday pay once. Most over the road truckers don't get holiday pay, or if they do, they're working it.
Right.
And that's kind of one of the benefits of driving a truck for a company that is not a trucking company, if that makes sense.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do get holiday pay. If for some reason I did have to work on the holiday, which I guess has happened before, Then you get the whole holiday pay plus, you clock in like normal. So in essence, you're getting double time. And then I get I have to be on call, which is awesome here. Like I said, with 9 drivers, basically like every 2 months, 2.5 months, depending on if some guys switch up their schedules occasionally, I have to be on call. And I get paid 4 hours straight time, even if I don't get a phone call. Even if I do get a phone call, I still get my 4 hours straight time. And I actually am told to clock in when I leave my house. So,
nice.
And then not clock out till I get back home. And I'm like, where I live, right? But they're like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, all right, that's an hour right there. You're paying me for just driving, round trip. But nope, they're cool with it. And the truth is if it's an emergency, my company just passes it on to the customer. And, let's be honest, that customer passes it on to his customer if he has an emergency or something. So my company's cool with it.
Yeah. Well, the overtime pay too is like, do you get overtime like over 8 or over 40 or how's that work?
Yeah. Over 40.
Okay. Yep. And naturally this can change, between companies, obviously, they might pay over 8 or, over 40. It's their option for that.
For sure. I guess it is. I've never worked for a company. I do know of some people that get overtime after 8, or I've heard of people who did. I've never have, but that would still be awesome because I've worked at companies to where, they busted my butt Monday through Wednesday and then Thursday sent me home a half day. And I'm like, you just took all my overtime away. That sucks. But
yeah, that's why the 8 works really well. The company I work for now, the city workers get anything over 8, and they often work 12, 14-hour days. So you can see where they make their money. They want to work those long days, and then, if they get nothing on Friday, it's great. They don't care. They got a long weekend now.
It's the same for me. I know that when this new company bought us out, there's, a lot of truck drivers, a lot of them have nothing better to do than start rumors. And one of the rumors was, wow, there's so many drivers. You're only going to work 8 hours a day. And I'm like, you know what? I'm old enough and I'm financially secure enough with me and my wife. I'm good with 8 hours. Is it going to be a big dent in my check? You bet. But I can still pay my bills. I'm good. So,
right.
But also the good news is they're not killing us, but we're not working 8 too. So, a 10-hour day, I get 55, 56 hours on average per week. I'm perfect with that. I'm great with that.
Yeah. I'm dealing with that with, the guys in my fleet right now. I'm always talking about, hammer down. I want to get all these miles and everything. And they take off, being union, we get the vacation and we get sick days, and they're like taking days all the time. Anytime they get a chance, they're taking their days. And I'm like, I've always just kind of cashed in my vacation and I never got any sick days or anything. And I don't know if I'll continue to do that. And they say, just keep working here. You will,
for sure. Yeah. Actually, and that's some different rules with my new company as well, that, I with my old company, we could carry over a week of vacation, but I don't think this company lets us. I need to double check on that. But we do have a wellness day, which I just used recently. I thought, what the heck? I took off a whole day to get my driver's license, and it literally took me 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I was in early, and that's just the way it works. Had I been pressed for time, I would have been there 3 hours. I guarantee it. But
right. Yeah. And this is exactly the way I've discovered that this works. Nobody uses a sick day when they're sick.
No,
they use it on a Friday when they want a long weekend.
Well, I use mine on Monday for that very reason as well.
Yeah. But you're twisted and demented. You went to the DMV or something, so.
Yeah. Well, actually, this is probably a whole other story, but I don't know if I even told you, I took a tour of the Amazon warehouse too, which was awesome. I actually got an invite from Amazon.
You mentioned that in Slack. How'd you get an invite from them?
Well, I think it's because my wife has said many times that I'm one of the reasons Amazon is allowed to keep their lights on, because, if they sold wives, I'd probably have a couple of them from Amazon.
The Evil Overlord's the same way.
I literally love Amazon, but, no, I just got an email one day. It said, have you ever wondered about the magic that goes on behind, when you hit the quote, buy it now quote button? I'm like, yeah, I have. So I signed up, made an appointment, asked her if she wanted to go, and she's like, no. And I'm like, a score? I'll go by myself. I don't care. So It was awesome. It was about an hour. Had a really cool tour guide. Like, it was like a little kid on a field trip, basically. It was a great time. It was amazing seeing this huge building with so little employees actually in it, mostly robots and conveyors and stuff. So.
Yeah. I think you did mention this in the Slack group. And for anybody interested, our Slack group is basically a glorified chat group, and we got a bunch of great people in there. None of this Facebook, Twitter hate going on in the Slack group. So if you're interested in that, just email me at truckerdump@gmail.com. And you can get in there and chat with Shannon.
For sure.
Right. Oh, yeah. Actually, Shannon is the new administrator for the iTruckers Slack group, which is the Apple-loving geek nerd group over there. If you're a trucker who loves your Apple gear, you can join the iTruckers group. What's the email on that? The iTruckers?
iTruckers, yes.
The iTruckers@gmail.com. Yeah. So, well, thanks for coming on the show and explaining a little bit more about this. I'd seen these trucks, sitting in rental yards and stuff like that, and I'd seen them delivering, but I never really gave it much thought until you started talking about it in Slack. So, thanks for coming on the show and giving us a clue about the inside world of this. Yeah.
Yeah, you bet, man. It was awesome. I appreciate the invite. I'm glad to be here. It was great getting to chat with you and kind of share a little bit about a different side of trucking that's, still just as important as every other trucks. I mean, I have respect. I don't say it just in passing. I have respect for every truck driver because especially you guys, well, not even so much you anymore with your new job, but these guys like Chris Mack and oh gosh, I'm going to mess up a bunch of names, but all of these guys in our Slack group that are gone for weeks at a time. You got my respect, man. That's crazy. So, we all make it work one way or another, whether I'm delivering something to build the building or you're delivering something to stock the building. It's kind of all a big family in a way.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again for showing up. And, is there any place you'd like to point people to, social network or anything like that? Or
no, I'm on Twitter. I've heard you mention that before, but I tweet probably twice a year.
Yeah, I'm not on there very much anymore either. The Slack group takes up my time. So
no, just Facebook or Slack. Slack's probably the best way, like you said, because everybody's civil and everybody is respectable and we give some ribbings, but still it's kept on a decent level.
Yeah. You're on Facebook too, but do you just use that for family type stuff mostly? Or?
No, I'll friend if somebody's out there and they want to friend me. I'll friend somebody on Facebook. I have no problem with that. I typically follow most of my Facebook is pit bull stuff because we have 2 pit bull dogs that we love and we try to stay positive advocates for the pit bull breed because they get, they're looked down on by a lot of people because of just a myth basically. But
yeah, they do get a bad rap, but knowing you has helped because I see, you have 2 pits and driver Chris Mack has a pit and
awesome.
They're all big babies.
Yeah, they are big snuggle babies and bed hogs and they'll even let a fart here and there, and run out of the room.
Of course they will.
And look at you like, what?
Right. Yep. In your case, you can really look at your wife and say, hey, it was the dog.
Well, every now and then she'll look at me and she'll like, did you hear that? And I'm like, I did. And then Oliver, he's our little baby boy. He's the worst one at it. And he'll look at us like, what? What did I do?
Yeah.
It's crazy. They have no shame at all.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, you know what? I knew there was no way we were getting off this phone call without talking about pit bulls. That's your love for them, and it's great.
Yeah,
I think it's great. Okay. Well, we'll talk to you later then, Shannon.
All right. Cool, man. Take care.
Well, that was a fun interview. Please write in to truckerdump@gmail.com. Let me know what you thought of it. If you've got suggestions for specialty jobs out there that you'd like to have featured, or maybe you just have questions about them. You see somebody rolling up and down the road and you think, wonder what that job's all about. Well, shoot me an email at truckerdump@gmail.com and I'll see if I can't figure out how to get somebody on the line. If you know anybody or you are someone who has a specialty job like this, please let me know. Maybe we can get you on the show. All you really need is Skype to be able to do one of these interviews. Nothing fancy, just maybe a USB headset or something like that is all you need.
The one caveat is I do ask that you actually have some experience in it, not, something peripheral or anything like that, or maybe you've been doing it for just a couple of months. No, I want to get people on here who have actually got some experience to it and really know what they're talking about. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this new feature. Hope you got some good information out of it. But hey, let's get on with this. We've got one more segment to go, and you know what that is.
Hey, yo, bud, where do you want this load of feedback?
Man, oh man, am I getting behind on feedback. I know I'm always asking you to send me your comments and your suggestions, and I love them, but I do get behind when I only put out a podcast once a month. Anyway, we'll try to get this just a small dent in it today, and who knows, if it keeps piling up, we may just have a whole episode devoted to feedback. I think I've actually had 2 of those episodes in the past, so if we got to do that again to get everybody's voice in, then so be it. Quite honestly, that makes for a pretty easy podcast for me to put together. So, like I said, keep the input coming. So let's see. First, we're going to hear from Doug, who you might remember from the May podcast doing the Trucker Grub segment. If memory serves, he taught us a valuable lesson that you do not pronounce them gyros, you pronounce them euros. How's that, Doug? How'd I do? So anyway, he writes, "Howdy, Todd. I'm late to your party as usual. I've been binge listening to your podcast for a couple weeks now. Found you through Talk CDL. I think it's humorous and entertainment. You keep saying you're a cheapskate and a tightwad, yet you're an Apple fanboy and you like cats more than dogs. I'm sure you have your reasons, but those things go like a round peg into a square hole. At least that's his way of thinking," he says. "Apple products cost more than Android products, and cats cost more than dogs. Because dogs take care of their business outside, and cats need litter, litter pan, litter scooper, litter pan liners, litter rug, etc. This confuses me somewhat. Oh well, whatever floats your boat, as long as you ain't sinking mine, all is good. Best regards to you and yours, Missouri Miller Boy." All right, I'm just going to read you what I wrote back to him because, well, it's a long response because that's what I do. Anyway, first off, I'm glad you're enjoying the podcast, Doug, and I hope it's helping you waste some of your driving time. I never thought about what you said, but you're exactly right. Apple fanboys and cat people do spend more money. Now, I know you're probably just giving me some good-humored crap here, but hey, I'm going to answer your question anyway. So here's the thing. I am a cheapskate at heart, but I don't like to cheap out on the things I do buy, if that makes sense. When I buy something, I want it to be good quality. I just don't like spending money on frivolous things. First and obvious is the iPhone. Yes, it's expensive as heck and it hurts me to buy one every couple of years. But I also use this device all day long and almost every day. My Slack groups, email, Facebook, texting, Twitter, trucking apps, and even games when I'm waiting at the shipper or receiver. Heck, I even do all my business and personal finances on my phone. Over the long haul, I don't think it pays to cheap out on something you use so often. Yes, I've heard Android devices are quite good nowadays, but I'm butthole deep into the Apple ecosystem already, and I find everything just easy to use. I don't want to fiddle with my phone like some Android users do. Another main reason I prefer the iPhone is that it's locked down tighter than a frog's butt. Android is far more open, so they're more vulnerable to viruses. And before you Android people jump on me, don't look at me, look at the internet. All the security researchers say so. It's not just me being a fanboy. I would also like to point out, Doug, that the evil overlord is part of the problem. For instance, back in 2008, I wanted a MacBook, but I was too cheap to buy one. She bought it for me for Christmas. And just a couple days ago, I was telling her that I was thinking about buying the less expensive iPhone XR. But she went out and got me the XS Max anyway. So you can see I try to be a cheapskate, but she foiled my plans. She often does that. By the way, she did this when I claimed I wanted the smaller iPhone 6 also. She bought me the iPhone 6 Plus, and she was right. I loved it just a couple days later. Anyway, next is my Mac. Good God, Macs are expensive nowadays. The thing is, I'm still rocking my 2008 MacBook Pro, and it's working just fine. Well, actually, I have to interject.
At the time I wrote him back, it was working just fine. It's actually starting to be a little finicky now, and it's scaring the holy bejesus out of me because, like I said, these MacBooks now are expensive. I really don't want to have to buy one, but it's coming one day. So, hey, if you ever want to help out with this, I'm probably going to buy a computer with the money I make from my business. So go buy those books right now. You can get the combo pack for 25% off at abouttruckdriving.com. Check that out. Even if you don't read them, buy them. All right. Anyway, even if my MacBook doesn't crap out, I'm going to have to update it eventually someday because Apple just quits supporting older operating systems, and they do that for security reasons. But hey, how many people can say they've had a computer for 10 years and it's still working fine? It'll actually be 11 years in December. Wow. I know if I'd bought a PC, that thing would have crapped out a long time ago. Been there, done that. Okay, now let's address your cats versus dog things. It has nothing to do with money and everything to do with convenience. Cats don't need or want your attention 24 hours a day. Dogs do. Cats can go take a crap whenever they want, and you go clean it out whenever you have time. Dogs need to go now, and you're the one that gets to take them out. I see truck drivers walking their dogs in freezing cold weather or the heat of summer, and I'm just sitting in my nice temperature-controlled truck thinking, nope. For the record, I don't hate dogs. I just prefer cats. So how's that for a long-winded response to something that was probably not a serious question anyway? Again, Doug, thanks for listening to the podcast, and feel free to submit feedback anytime you want to share your thoughts. And he did just that. He wrote in saying, I get the security thing. I like Mac computers for that reason. iPhones may as well have Greek writing instead of English. I have no idea how they work and nowhere near the patience or willingness to relearn how to work a cell phone. My wife had an iPhone 6 Plus, and that thing drove both of us guano crazy. We got rid of that thing as soon as we could. I like my Samsung Galaxy S7. I've had it for about 3 years and use it for most of those same things. I like what I have because it's what I know more than anything. Yeah, that's kind of the way we are. We're creatures of habit, aren't we? He goes on and says, I like walking my dog in all kinds of weather. Gives my legs a chance to stretch for a few minutes and doubles as a warning system should anyone want to get into the truck. Although it would be nice if my company let me have a full-size dog, my miniature dog will work for now. And of course, as most of you do, when you get a chance to slam me, you do. He ends up with, one other thing, now that I'm caught up on past episodes, when's the next podcast coming out? Well, I wrote him a short email back, and he wrote back again, slamming me once more. He said, see, I knew you could write a short email in less than 40 words. Good job. Well, good job being a smart aleck there, Missouri Miller boy. I appreciate that. And I appreciate your emails. Next up, let's hear from Joe. Joe writes, thank you for the podcast. Interesting to listen to. Regarding your recent podcast, you mentioned, I don't honestly remember which one I mentioned this in, but he writes, what is he saying here? I only know what I read about this in the online Rapid City, South Dakota newspaper. The paper reports that a truck driver crossed over the median and killed someone. He's in jail now for some big charge. The charge is because he admitted he took a sleeping pill several days earlier. That seems a little much to charge over taking a sleeping pill days earlier. Okay, first off, Joe, I apologize for not getting back to you. Usually when somebody writes me an email, I respond fairly quickly saying I will answer it on the podcast, or I will just answer it outright like I did for Doug's earlier. But for some reason, this one slipped through the cracks. Sorry about that. And I also have to say, Lenny, I did the same to you. So if you're listening, I will be answering yours in the next podcast. Didn't have time for yours today. But anyway, let's get back to Joe. This story, yeah, it was exactly right what he said. A truck driver crossed the median and wiped out a car, killed an elderly woman, and he is going to be charged for that. Not first degree murder. What is it? Manslaughter. And he's facing some jail time. And the kicker of it is he claims to have taken an Ambien 2 days earlier. Okay. Now, here's the thing that's not being made aware of. Joe, you are right. It does seem a bit of a stretch if it was several days earlier. And even 2 days earlier is a stretch. If they're trying to get him for taking, if they're trying to bust him and nail him on this for 2 days earlier, I don't think that's ever going to fly. I looked on drugs.com and looked up Ambien, and, pretty much everybody knows. If you don't know, it's an insomnia. It's for insomnia, for, helping you to fall asleep. But it says right here in the details that it does not last that long. It says you just need to make sure that when you wake up the next morning, that you give it time to make sure you're not feeling groggy. So that means that it wears off within, I think it said like 4 hours usually after you wake up. So if he took it 2 days before, he should be fine. He might still get charged for manslaughter, but I don't know how the drug thing is going to go into it. Now, there may be more to this story because he said he took it 2 days before. Maybe he did take it the night before, only got maybe 6 or 7 hours of sleep, and then got up and started driving before he felt fully aware. I'm sure the drug screen that was inevitably taken will give the gory details on this. So if you're interested in it, I look for an update on the story, and I couldn't find an answer. There was no update. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes out. If you find out, Joe, please write in and tell me how that went. Hey, next up we hear from Lisa Nowak. Long time no hear. For those of you who've listened to the podcast for a long time, you may or may not remember that Lisa is an author. She was featured in episode 79. Yeah, that's what it was. And this was a review of her book called Getting Sideways. And the reason I mention it is because it has a trucker aspect to it. She has a character in there, and the character's dad is a trucker, and she had lots of questions about being a trucker and what was feasible, and how long, just different stuff about it, how long it would take to get cross country, different aspects of the trucking industry, things like that. And she asked if I would help her, and I was glad to do that. And I think the book came out really well. Back then, this was book 2 in the series. The series is called the Full Throttle series. And it's a young adult thing, and they're really good books. She's very humorous, and the main character, Cody, is quite funny, quite a funny kid. I was looking at it, and it looks like she's up to 4 books in that series now. I'm not sure if that ended it or what. It looks like she might have moved on to some other things, but these were really good books if you're interested, and they're pretty darn cheap on Amazon. I put a link in the show notes to that too. But anyway, let's get on to what she says here. She writes, "Congratulations on the new job." Oh, guess she heard Trucker Dump 136, the emotions of changing truck driving jobs. She says, "Congrats on the new job. Don't feel bad about being scared. Everyone is in a life-changing situation like this, no matter how positive it may be. After a week or two, you'll have so much more experience and you'll feel great. Even if you don't, you've covered all your bases, including an escape route." Yeah, that's when I talked about I could just go right back to my old company. She says, "You've worked hard and long for this. Enjoy it." Well, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. You know what the thing I took out of this was, how she says, after a week or two, you'll have so much more experience. Boy, that is really true. I think I stressed in the last podcast, episode 137, that when I was explaining the new job, that, man, there is a lot to learn when you switch from over the road to LTL. I almost feel like a new trucker, like a rookie. But here's the thing, and the lesson I want you to take from this is to keep asking questions. We've had some new hires at our company, and I've had 2 people now underneath me, and the difference is I am assimilating easier into this job than the 2 people behind me. And that is because one of them never asks any questions. Never. Very private guy. And the woman, she asks questions, but only when she really needs help. And she's starting to discover that the more questions she asks and the more assistance she asks for, the less mistakes she's making, the more money she's making, that kind of thing. And when the guys on my fleet told me, call them anytime they have, I have a question, or, and if I get in a situation, just call and ask what to do. And I have been doing that. I asked so many questions of these guys. They've all been so cool. They've all answered all of my questions. They don't give me short little answers and act annoyed. They are very thorough in their answers, and they have helped me. I've missed out on very little money opportunities because I'm constantly in contact with these guys. And that's what I'm saying is the moral of this is keep asking questions. You know, never quit learning. I know that sounds cheesy. It sounds like a PSA after school thing, you know, the more you know. But seriously though, if you are a new trucker in the industry, don't try to figure things out on your own. Ask. You know, if you get in a weird situation, you can't get those tandems slid the way you thought, or you can't even remember how to slide your tandems, before you just start experimenting, just go up and ask a driver to help you. You know, 9 times out of 10, the more experienced driver is more than willing to help and just pass on some information, pass on some knowledge that they've learned through the years. So the moral of the story is just don't be quiet. Don't be to yourself. That may go against your character, but when you need help, ask. And I guarantee you're going to be a much happier truck driver. All right. If I had the little sound for the more you know, I would play it right now. Okay. Bringing up the rear, we've got David. He writes, just got the book last night and so far so good. Not sure which book he bought, but, I hope he's enjoying it. He says, I drove a beer truck for 2 years before going into law enforcement. After nearly 2 decades on the job, I'm calling it a career. At only 43 years old, I'm definitely interested in going over the road or regional trucking. I was raised by my owner-operator grandparents and spent my youth in that truck going from North Carolina to California every summer. Now I'm interested in getting behind the wheel myself. I've been enjoying the podcast for about 3 months now and make time to listen every time a new one drops. Looking forward to renewing my CDL and climbing those steps. Just curious about your thoughts on my dilemma. Should I attend truck driving school even with my CDL just for the knowledge I'd gain from it? Or should I call the recruiters and give them my local driving experience as far as being a Class B, having a Class B license? Thanks and keep up the great work, David. Well, David, thanks for buying the book, and I'm glad you're enjoying the podcast. You know, I wish I could kick out more than one podcast per month, but hey, it is what it is. You know, that's really cool that you had trucking grandparents. I imagine that was a lot of fun trucking with them every summer. As for your dilemma, it sounds like it's been a long time since you've driven a Class B truck. Here's the thing. You can certainly start calling recruiters, but in my experience, most of the big carriers are going to require either verifiable recent experience in Class A vehicles, or they're flat out going to require a diploma from a truck driving school. That's mostly due to insurance reasons. Now, a small company might just take a chance on you. So if you really don't want to go to truck driving school, then you might try some of them to see if they'll hire you. And since you've only ever driven Class B vehicles, I think you'd benefit from a truck driving school. But you know your driving skills better than me. Shifting and backing are the two hardest things. Now, you are an ex-police officer, so I'm guessing you do have some driving skills at least. So again, you're just going to have to be the judge of this. And hey, you also know your finances better than me, right? Or it'd be creepy if I knew them better than you, right? So anyway, some of these truck driving schools aren't cheap. Some of the mega carriers actually have schools that will train you for free, but then you're stuck with them for usually a year if you don't want to pay back the money. It's a viable option if you're flat broke, but in my opinion, it's always better to find an independent school or community college if you can manage it. That way you can choose from every trucking company out there instead of just being stuck with the one that paid your way through school. And he wrote back and said that he was considering taking a 2-week refresher course at a local community college, which I thought sounded perfect for him. He says it's just basically a crash course in backing and turning and learning the new ELDs, which, well, saying it's a crash course, that's, I don't know if I want to go to a truck driving school that's a crash course, but no, I get what you're saying. That's pretty funny wording, though. I'm sure that was accidental. If it wasn't, kudos to you. Anyway, David, I hope this refresher course works out for you. I hope you get on the road soon. And thanks for all your years of service as a police officer. I know you guys are often underappreciated and sometimes outright hated. And, well, I don't go for that crap. You guys are great. You know, if I call 911, you guys are going to show up, and I'm happy for that. So, again, thanks for your service in that. Well, I guess that about does it for the day. I don't know how long this podcast is going to be because, well, I'm still recording in an unedited form, but it looks like it's going to be a long one. Who knows? I always say that. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Clearly, I'm not a good judge of that sort of thing. But anyway, I would like to thank everybody who participated in the show. We got Doug, Joe, Lisa, and David for writing in for questions. And of course, who could forget Fred for piping in on the Trucker Grub segment this time around?
Anything for you.
Fred, I appreciate it, but go away. And of course, thanks to Shannon Holden, who was patient enough to work with me through some Skype issues. Man, we were both having some Skype issues. But thanks for sharing his expertise in the rental equipment hauling industry. And if you're interested in doing that sort of thing, well, I hope that works out for you. All right. Before we get out of here, let's go ahead and hit up some contact info. I know I usually put some of this in the outro during the music, but I think some of you probably drop off about the music time, which is, well, fine, but you miss all the bloopers afterwards. Just saying. Anyway, how can you contact me? truckerdump@gmail.com, obviously. The website is abouttruckdriving.com. You can search for me on Twitter. I'm at Todd McCann. That's 2 D's, 2 C's, and 2 N's. I'm on Facebook. Search for Trucker Dump Podcast over there. And what else? Oh, the Slack groups, of course. First, there is the Trucker Dump Slack group. Slack is basically a glorified chat app where we can all talk. And if you're tired of Facebook and Twitter being full of mean jerks who are smart alecks and can't answer a straight question, well, come on over to our group. We are a bit smart aleck to each other, but we do it all in clean fun. And we're very, it's a very good informational group, especially if you're a new trucker. Join that group. You've got lots of years of experience just waiting there to help you. And everybody in there is great and a valued member of that group. So, again, you can join that by just emailing me at truckerdump@gmail.com and ask for a Slack invitation. There's also a link in the show notes that will send an email directly to me about this. And the other Slack group is for Apple, iPhone, iPad loving truckers. And if you're interested in talking with a bunch of other truckers who love their Apple gear, you can join that group. That's called the iTruckers. And if you are an Apple person, you know how to spell that. And the email for that is theitruckers.com. And on that, you'll hear from Shannon because he is the administrator of that group. And we'll get you an invite sent out to either of those groups right away. If there's anything else, I can't think what it is. And now that the podcast is completely recorded, now I just have to edit it and post it, which means you'll probably get this in about 6 months. Enjoy! Anyway, let's get out of here. What say?
Drive safe and stay out of my way.
Oh, shut up, Fred. Do you have a specialty truck driving job that you'd like to talk about on the show? If you've got access to Skype, then please contact me at truckerdump@gmail.com, and maybe we can get you on the show. Little caveat here, please only contact me if you've got experience in this specialty. You can also use that email address to submit suggestions, questions, and feedback. And don't forget to check out the newly designed website at abouttruckdriving.com. Check out both the ebooks and the 25% off combo pack while you're there. And of course, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the new design. Well, as always, I appreciate you listening and for your astounding amounts of patience regarding my release schedule. So until next time, drive safe and stay out of my way. Check 1, check 2. Hey there, trucker dumpers. Let's see. Hey there, trucker dumpers. Hey there, trucker dumpers. Quit bumping your nose on the microphone. Hey there, trucker dumpers. Todd McCann here. Nope. Hey there, trucker dumpers. Long time, no talk, right? Hey there, Trucker Dumpers. Todd. No. What else have I been up to recently? Well, I was the co-host. And what else have I been up to recently? Well, okay. What is that? That's not the right link. That's not it. Dadgummit. All right, next up, we're going to hear from Lisa Nowak, who, well, if you're a longtime listener to the podcast, you might remember her. She is an author of a series of young adult books, and one of the characters featured. I don't know what I'm saying. You can also use that email address to submit. You can also use that email address to what? Whoops, that's not right. Averett Express. Wow, easy for me to say. They're tacking on almost like a rider on an insurance policy. You know how these little side appendages that are supposed to take care of little things. No, that's not what I want to say. Of course, they still have splits. $4,600,800,000. All right, we've got Shannon Holden on Skype today. How's it going there? Blooper.
That's hilarious.
See what I'm going through here?
Yeah.
All right. It's even more embarrassing when I'm doing this with somebody who I don't know.
Oh, okay.
You know, like I'm trying to be the consummate professional, and I'm on here stammering and say, "Hey, bear with me. It's going to take 5 times."
I'm just trying my best to think, and I don't want to cause that many bloopers, and try not to be mush mouth and enunciate properly. And so
you're going in the bloopers, dude. At some point,
there'll be a lot. I'm afraid.
Yeah, probably both of us. All right.
They're all over the Chicago area, but the one I'm talking about's in Litchfield, Illinois on I-55 exit.
I'm such an idiot.